Hello and welcome. This is Healthy Food Place where we share ideas and recipes on how you can stay healthy naturally. So today, I want to share on the subject of swallow. Swallow may sound strange to some people. You're welcome. Swallow may sound strange to some people who are from faraway countries. But when we talk of swallow, I will briefly define swallow in my own terms. Now, swallow is when you prepare any food that ordinarily is either in a powdered form, in a tuber form, in a grain form, or in any of the forms other than this, and you decide to prepare it in a solid way so that instead of chewing, which is expected to be the cause or the way to eat it, you now have to make a soup. Yes, you now have to make a soup and use your hand or some other means to make a mold, a little mold out of it, and you consume it without having to chew it. Just what we call swallow. You just have to take it down directly through your throat to your stomach without any other process of chewing or whatever. That is exactly what I mean by swallow. And now, looking at swallow, some people also are fans of it. They love it, and some people don't like it. And the fact that you don't like it doesn't make it of lesser quality or a less loved food. It's what some people love so much and they cannot afford to stay a day or two without it. Why? The reason sometimes for this type of thing is quite obvious. It depends to a large extent on how we were raised. Yes, most of us, once a child is weaned from the breast, the next thing is chewing and swallowing as well. The child watches other people, the mom and the dad, as they swallow, as they mold it and swallow it. She watches it daily, and he or she looks at their countenance and how they enjoy it, just like a chick, a little chick watching the mother chick as they eat their food. That is exactly what happens in the case of swallow. So as a child grows up, is growing up, he or she begins to also practice swallowing. And as he or she notices that the parents love it, he or she begins to also like it. And some of us that were raised with that system of eating, swallowing, if you don't swallow in a day, you will be feeling unhappy, as if something is missing in you. And what are some of the benefits? I didn't actually think of this, but let me briefly also talk if there are any benefits or disadvantage of swallowing. In my own view, I think it has some pros and cons. And one of the ugly sides of it that I need to say first is that it makes you to consume more of what ordinarily you will have spent time chewing. And so those who are, aiming to lose weight, when you swallow too frequently, those grains or those powders or whatever that ordinarily you will have taken less in less quantity, swallowing makes you to take them more, meaning more calories, and then also likelihood of weight gain, sorry. So that is one of the ugly sides of that swallowing, that it may not help those who want to lose weight, and it may also make you to consume more of that food because you won't waste time. There is no time wasted in chewing. But it has a good side also. It has a good side in that it's easier to do for you to swallow something than to spend time chewing and whining your jaws and all of that, you know. So whichever one you choose, we were born with it, myself inclusive. We were raised with swallowing, just like the mother chick. We saw our parents swallowing, and we grew up to swallow, and we love it. And so, if you are one of such that loves swallowing, whatever you are swallowing, it does not matter. As long as you are swallowing it, you don't chew it. That is exactly what swallow is all about. But then, back to the subject. What am I swallowing and why? Before I give us the exact thing that I'm swallowing, let me also tell us briefly some of the things I've attempted to swallow because of health. As we age, we continue to make changes. And for obvious reasons, if you are consuming one thing and it's no longer working well for you, or you start feeling some health issues or experiencing some health issues, you definitely must have to do an overview. Look at the foods you are eating, if you need to eliminate some of them. At one point, I was actually swallowing semovita and all those group of foods that are packaged several years ago. I was actually, it took a long time to convince myself that they are not the healthiest and they're not the healthy food for me because they are fortified. Most of them are fortified. And when a food is fortified, I used to love it. It means more vitamins have been added, more nutrients have been added to it. So for many years, I was taking that swallow, those category of swallow and all the flour, I call them the flour group, depending on the brand name, but they're all in the flour group. So I was on it for several years, and it's very hard for you to even feel that they are acidic. It took time for me also to get to know this. They are not just something you just think to be acidic. So it took a very long time. So I took it and continued. And after several years of being into the wellness industry and trying to also heal myself and help others, I convinced to drop those category of foods that they contribute to acids too. And so I began to also take grains. I took grain for some time. What do I mean by like sorghum, chia, millet, corns, and all of that? I began to take them. And over time also, I noticed that they are highly, not just mildly inflammatory, they are inflammatory. They sponsor inflammations around the joints, toothache, sore throat, and some other ailments that comes with when you are consuming these grains, especially on a daily basis. And again, most of them have some form of gluten. You know, this gluten, as the word implies, tend to really glue to the body. I think that's where they must have gotten the name gluten from. It normally glue and stay for longer. And so as it stays for longer, the next day we consume it, over time, you may be developing things like fatty liver. I know there was a time I was also taking wheat. It's level, we are moving. And that is why you need to be following the healthy food place, where we can be updating ourselves with latest updates and changes also. Because changes and knowledge is increasing, and there is need for us to also be updated with what is actually going on. Because we may be updated thinking that that is what it should be, but whereas others have gone ahead of us. And so we need to stay and be updated with updates on the latest food. So actually, I was taking the grains and all the stuff what was thinking is the best because they are rich source of vitamins B, rich source of energy. But over time too, it came with its own challenges. And I have to do a kind of, I have to move away. That's just it. I have to move away from it. When I found out that it's actually inflammatory, unlike my earlier opinion that that is where I should be, and that's where we should be. Grains, that they won't make you fat. They actually make you fat. So I noticed a lot of health challenges. It has to do with pains, inflammations, so much, and I have to, begin to drop it gradually. Wheat is out of it completely. Today, I still see a lot of people consume wheat even while on medications, while on severe health challenges. I see people in the market, and because of ignorance, they are still consuming the same food that created the problem. That is why knowledge is so important. No wonder the Bible says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It's actually important to be, equipped with knowledge. And so a lot of people are still in the dark, and some have already been updated, but they are still yet to be convinced. They still believe that that is what they should be taking. And so that one went by the way. Then the third one was oats. Quicker oats, though it's quite expensive now. Then I also began to take it as a swallow. I get lots of it, grind it to powder, and begin to use it to make my swallow without adding any mixture to it. It is great for those who want to lose weight. It does not contribute much to fatty liver like other grains. It's a liver supporting food, as a matter of fact, and it's great for cholesterol. These are some of my observations when I was focusing on it. But the swallowing of it also was something else, because when you swallow a food, like I said earlier, you obviously will take more quantity of it, and that is one of the reasons I actually hate swallow, and I'm trying to gradually make it an occasional treat. Yes, I want to make it an occasional treat, I don't want it to be an everyday thing, just the way we grew up. We make sure we swallow every day, because it makes you to consume larger amount of food and destroys your weight gain and weight loss goal. And so I began to take it, talking of quicker oats, or not really quicker oats is actually brand. Talking of oats as a grain. So I actually was using it, swallowing it. That was several years ago, like it's up to 8-9 years. I was actually in love with it. It's great for a lot of things, but it's also a source of some amount of gluten. And it began to rear its own ugly size over a long period of time. So I began to draw away from it. Because once you experience anything like a pain, or especially pains, you are as we are getting older, you must first of all look at what you're eating. Look at the type of work you're doing. Look at yourself. In what way or ways are you contributing to this disease? In what ways or ways am I feeding this disease? That is the most important thing before running for medications. Because a lot of people are, taking medications while still feeding the disease. And this is actually worrisome. So I actually had to begin to consider dropping it. At one point, I began to add soya beans powder to it, mixing it together, but over time, it created more inflammations. And I had to now bring out some grains, put the grains together, add some soya beans, some oats together, started grinding them together, consuming it, and was okay for some time. Over time again, inflammations came up, begin to show up. I said, no. And so here we go. I will soon be rounding up. Somebody just entered the house. So what am I swallowing now? In my next broadcast, in my next outing here, I'll be showing us that cassava, edible cassava, but that's not what I'm swallowing. What I'm swallowing now is fermented gari. Yes, fermented gari, because, but what is important, over time I have been studying it too, but for some time it has shown promising in the sense that it does not contribute to constipation. It does not produce gas. It's also fermented. It's totally free from gluten. But the problem with it, with most of us, is the portion. It is the portion that is the problem. But if you are someone that actually wants, if you are looking for easily digestible food that won't give you gas, that your stomach will be happy and say thank you, I think that is exactly the type of food you should be looking for. Foods that are gluten-free. Corn is not like that. Thank you, Mommy Stella. You're welcome. So if you can manage the portion of your fermented gari, you know there are different types. So there is the one we call Bini gari. Don't go there. My dear, don't go there. There's so much starch in it. I don't know how it's fermented. But there is another brand of fermented gari that is a bit light. It's not really heavy. That is exactly the type I prepare now for swallow. Yes, that is Jebu gari, yes. That's the Jebu gari. You're welcome. See the third person. So that's the Jebu gari. So when I began to experiment on it, I've already gone far because I won't stay too long. I've already I've defined my position on what swallow is and all of the other things. I've also told us how we grew up to begin to love this swallow of a thing. It's not that we were just born and started swallowing. We saw people swallowing and we saw that our parents are loving it and they started giving us swallow and we began to do it. And today, many people, especially men, I don't think there is any man in the house now. So they love the swallow so much that they can't stay in a day. It's just like giving a dog a food without bone inside. That is, you are looking for trouble. If you have ever had a pet before, try giving that pet food without bone. That's how it is with our own tradition here, especially our men and some women too. That when you don't give them swallow for a whole week, it's like you are giving a dog food without bone inside the food. What is the dog going to chew? I know my own person here that you dare not even talk of no swallow. And I tell you, one of the disadvantage, I've already mentioned the main disadvantage of this swallow. It makes you to increase calorie. And those who are going through high blood pressure should actually be more cautious with swallow. Because the swallow makes you to consume larger amount of it. Even with this one that I'm currently settled on. And I don't know if there will be any other place. Because, like I said, we keep on, research is still ongoing. And we need to be updated. When I was making quicker oats for swallow, I didn't believe there would be any other. I buy large quantity of it, grind it, and I was swallowing it. Using it for my swallow. I don't even add anything to it. Like, adding any other mixture to it. I just kept eating it until I saw the ugly side. So I've come a long way, my dear. I've come a long way with all this food. Even rice. I have gone through rice as swallow too. In case you are one of such, or you have, I mean, pure rice, white, like semu. When you prepare it, looks exactly like pounded yam. I've also taken that some years back as swallow. It's not good. And I repeat, it's not good. One of the side that makes it so bad is this making you to consume a lot. And that's where, and then when I was taking I bought a lot of the rice, ground rice stuff for my whole family. And I found out that I was having pain around my neck, my back. This was about 9 years ago. Around my back, some kind of tension around the back of my head then. So I didn't know it was the rice that we are using for swallow, but because I wasn't actually as sensitive as I am now. Because right now, when anything happens, I quickly look at my diet. I look at my diet and my lifestyle. Wherein am I contributing to this problem that is, to this particular thing that is happening? And so that was the case also. So that was the case. I actually was taking it, enjoying it, always very smooth, very beautiful. So now when I see people at times, they market it, they show, I'm going to buy this, this rice, buy this, buy a lot of things outside there. I just move away, I move and pass. In my next, I will also show you something that I prepared. I fermented at home and prepared pure white. I don't want to mix it up today so that we don't get confused. But it's also something that ordinarily you say, this is great for swallow. But I will also tell you the ugly side of it. And why we need to, make some of this thing. If we can make it ourselves, it's very, very good. But if you cannot make it like myself, I won't tell you I'm fermenting the garlic. But I hope to start doing that soonest. I hope to start fermenting. It's a long process. It's a long process. And one of the things that discourages me is that what quantity, after all, am I looking at to eat, to consume them? So when I consider the portion that I will be taking, it discourages me because I have a lot of work to do online, offline, writing, and then going to be doing the work of processing and production. It takes a lot of time. So that is why sometimes I just let go some of them so that I can focus more on this aspect, on what I'm doing. But actually, the fermented gari is gluten-free. And I have noticed it does not contribute to elevated blood sugar for me. It doesn't. And it does not also contribute, especially if you take good portion. And you must not take it every day too. That's exactly also one aspect we must also be very much aware of. I already wrote something this afternoon on the blog that you should never, I think that is the something you should take home with. You should never remain on any food for too long, no matter how good it is, including this one that I'm telling you. When I take it like a day or two, I just go back and then maybe I take rice or some other things, sweet potatoes, because gari is not a source of vitamin A. We know, except this edible cassava that we are told that research says it's a source of vitamin A, and we only work or rely on what research has told us, then we'll be testing it on our own body like I normally do. So whatever we are told, we accept it, we believe it, but we're also testing ourselves. We're not disputing or arguing with, contending what is it. We're also watching our body, whether what we heard is true about the food. So, but the ugly side of the fermented Ijebu gari, like my sister actually observed, is it doesn't have vitamin A, and all the grains most of the grains are like that. They don't have significant amount of vitamin A, so we don't have to, consume them frequently for too long because of our eyes. And the inclusion of egg also is very important. Thank you for your comment. We need to take it in moderation. Let it not be a daily something. Control the portion of the fermented garri and ensure that there is protein in it with lots of vegetables or whichever soup you want. But it mustn't be too much. Once you take too much, remember, it's not a source of vitamin A, but besides that, it's actually the one that I am presently on, and I have not actually found a reason to stop it, because it doesn't produce gas and it's a stomach friendly food, just gentle, and it's gluten free. So with the fermentation of it also, I think it makes it more gut friendly. So that is one of the reasons why I started it about a few weeks ago. I mean, using the fermented garri, and I began to check my blood sugar in the morning when I take it. Remember, I mustn't eat late too. All other rules remain. So I began to check my sugar in the morning, and I discovered it's not having any negative impact. I began to check the constipation aspect, and I found out also that I'm getting relieved. I began to monitor a lot of things, and at the end of it, I told myself, I don't even need to be adding soya beans to eat like I used to think. You must add this much. More so that at this age, as we age, we don't need too much protein. We don't need too much protein. Once in a while, we need it. We need legumes, but we don't need too much. Like if we're taking beans or taking any protein once in a day, or taking meat or whatever, I don't think, before I'll be thinking that I must add something to eat, to garri, something, I mean, for the swallow, unless you want to take it for drinking. Okay, some of us will say I didn't talk about the drinking of it. Yes, the drinking is also a very good. I have actually used, while I was managing a diabetic person several years ago. I've tested it too. It has better blood sugar control than bread. You can go and find this out yourself. If you take it in small amounts and add something like peanuts for a diabetic, a little peanuts, or even the coconuts we're talking about, it has a good fat for the brain. When we are managing older people, we should always remember that there is need for fat, healthy fat in their diet. So if the person looks for energy, or maybe saying it's weak, why think of biscuit? Why think of Indomie? I see a lot of old people say they're enjoying Indomie, their mommy is enjoying it. No. You can get something fermented. If she wants a quick energy, it will not spike her sugar. You give it a try. Put a little, like 3 tablespoons in the water. A good one, a clean one, and save it. You can add a little peanut or any other nut that you want to add, a little. If peanut is too heavy for them, you can add any other thing to help to add fat to it. It's just the fat that we are concerned about. Even if it's almond that you want to chew with it, fine. But there is also another way. You can also add cashew nut, a small amount, because cashew nut has antimicrobial properties. You can add small amounts, because all that is always needed when managing blood sugar and even high blood pressure is to have fat in the diet, good, healthy fat in the diet. But when we are trying to run away from fat altogether, that is when we encounter problem, my people. When we are trying to just avoid fat in every way, we encounter problem. And so we should, if you want to try my own this thing, you can begin to test on Gary small, but don't take it late. Do a little quantity of that Ijebu fermented Gary for your swallow. Get enough soup. Make sure there is meat or egg or protein in the meat in the soup. Ensure there is protein. We don't preach no meatless soup here. If it's fish, put good one that is fresh and big. I mean, not dried fish. Next time I'm going to talk about dried fish. Don't say I use dried fish. If you want fish to be your protein in that diet, let it be fresh or frozen fish. And let it be omega-3 fish, not just fish. I've tried consuming some fish. I checked my sugar. It's up. The fish couldn't do anything. Instead, it increased toxins in the body. Toxins in a way that when you belch and you can smell the fish, some of us I know what I'm talking about, and you can smell the fish. That's the toxic fish. And it's an indication that we should move away from that kind of fish or that particular fish. When after eating it and you can still smell it in your nose. So, don't want to take your time too much. Thank you all for coming. If you want to ask a question, you have the time to do it through the comment as you step in, so that we do not have to spend all day here. But I just came briefly to update us that I've moved away from consuming oat swallow. I've also moved away from consuming, although you can add your small oats occasionally to it. I do it once in a while. I think I almost missed out on that. Once in a while, I add a little oat powder. I just feel, okay, let me add a little so that I can remove cholesterol. Because we believe oats have small protein. That's more protein than the fermented Gary. Oats have more protein. But then, the mixture, it is just to add protein, a little protein to the Gary, but most times you can just make it like that. You can make your Gary like that, consume it without having to, without having to worry about adding anything, whether adding soya beans or adding any other form of, you are welcome. I've seen another person just when I was trying to, so if you have any comment or question, you are free to do that. You are free to do that, because that's exactly what I've come to do, to update us that I've left those ones. Because some of you, if you are watching or listening, maybe I heard at one time, told you, this is what I'm taking this grain, taking millet, taking sorghum, mixing it with corn and cassava and all of that. But the fermented Ijebu Gari, once in a while, not every day, once in a while, please, for swallow only. Then you can add a little oat powder if you want. But that's where I am for now. It's no longer only oats, because it will soon start creating unnecessary pain somewhere, and you won't know that it is the oats that was causing it. Sometimes you may be having toothache. So sudden toothache will just emerge, and you'll be wondering, where did it come from? Sometimes sore throat. These are some of the effects of consuming grains all the time. Sometimes skin problem, and so many other health issues, which you may not be able to, But if you are smart and you are following this channel, you will quickly, check what you are eating, what the diets that you have been engaged in lately, and do some elimination. And definitely, if you are also coming to live outings like this, you will definitely notice or ask your question if there is any, and get your answers in real time. I think that is where I want to be ending for now. I have seen that some people are already coming in, but I have not read any comment from them. Stella, thank you so much, ma, for this elaborate educative session. God bless you. Appreciate you, Mommy Stella, and you are welcome. But I didn't see my friend, I've forgotten that name. She's not here today. And the other people in the house, I didn't see their comments. Some other people are there, but I couldn't get exactly who, because they didn't make any comments. Appreciate you for coming. Please don't forget to share it. Help me to be sharing this message. It's a message, because some people are still living in the dark. If you tell them, they will not, some may not agree, but if you share it like a message and they listen to it, you may get convinced that this may help them regain their health. Because the essence of all these educations is for you to regain your health and to retain that regaining after you have regained it, so that you will be able to stay healthy naturally. Just like Deborah Fire say, yes, you're welcome. Just like your Mama G, the grace of God is helping us and helping me. Staying healthy January to December is not a joke for all of us. And I want to say thank you all for coming, and keep staying healthy naturally. Till I come your way again. Bye-bye.